It made me cry.
This one's wife. Harry gets the big Regal middle finger. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. It's not going too well for Harry, as usual. He gets plenty of ridicule as a consequence of the way that he behaves, and as a consequence of his ensnarement as the ginger poodle with his handler, this one's wife. It's also the case that he's gone across to London for an Invictus event, and he wanted to see his dad, but his dad's too busy being king to bother with him, which is a real snub for the Prince of Pink Pancakes, but an unsurprising one as a consequence of the way that he has behaved. The problem for this, of course, is that this one's wife still has an eye on getting back into the royal family if necessary. Yes, you may well think, what a deluded nut job, but in essence that is the case. Because of her narcissism, she believes that she could just waltz back into the royal family because, after all, she didn't do anything wrong. They were the ones who were the big meanies towards her. The King and the Princess of Wales, of course, were the royal racists. They were the ones that smeared her. They were the ones that questioned about Archie's skin colour. She was the victim of a concerted effort to be unpleasant to her because she was a person of colour. Even though there's no evidence whatsoever to support that, that doesn't matter in the deluded mind of the narcissist that is this one's wife. Her victimhood and paranoia combine to tell her they were out to get you. They didn't like you because of your skin colour. They didn't like you because you were an empowered feminist. They didn't like you because William fancied you. And who could blame him? After all, you are so hot. The fact is that her narcissism, through its delusion, tells her that she is the victim, and therefore they ought to apologise to her, that they ought to offer an olive branch so that they could come back in. In actual fact, she still believes that she should be entitled to a half-in, half-out situation whereby they can do stuff for the royal family, but also pursue their own commercial interests, even though it's been made clear on repeated occasions that's a no-go. She doesn't understand why that isn't permissible. She just believes that she should be allowed to do what she wants, and she believes that the royal family need her. Of course, she recognises that the connection to the royal family is the only thing that's keeping her relevant as a consequence of the failings, which of course haven't been as a result of her incompetence or lack of popularity, but simply bad fortune, and of course those that have been working against her. After all, it's never her fault, it's always somebody else's fault. The recent developments whereby the King has made it clear that he won't bother to spend time with Harry is also a problem for this one's wife, because she wants to maintain that connection. Because if all else fails, try Wales. No, if all else fails, she will look to try and get back into the royal family because she's desperate to cling on to the status, the fame, and the wealth that have been occasioned as a consequence of her hitting the jackpot by finding a gullible and suggestible ginger prince. Thus, when Harry is ignored in essence by his father, this is a problem for this one's wife, and results in her realising that things are not as they ought to be vis-a-vis relationships between the House of Sussex and the King and the other Windsors. Her narcissism wants her to remain linked to them because the connection to the royal family enables her to assert control over more people, draw fuel from more people. It gains access to those character traits. It lets her into those residual benefits. And without it, she's a nobody. She doesn't want to contemplate that, but she is aware of the importance of maintaining that connection. And events such as the King saying, "I don't have time to see old Gingerbollocks," is a problem because it severs the relationship between her and the royal family, and thus impacts upon, subconsciously, the prime aims. Not only is it a problem in the sense that the King didn't want to spend time with Harry and didn't make time to do so, but of course it's then reported on. And who else? And we haven't heard from him for a little while, but Piers Morgan has popped up, revelling in the opportunity, as he would, to draw some fuel himself and assert control over this one's wife and Harry by pointing out just how right the king is to treat Harry in this fashion. Piers Morgan, of course, is a habitual critic of the Sussexes, and with justification. As I've explained on numerous occasions in the past, he utilises the truth for the purposes of getting to the prime aims himself. I know there are some of you who think that I'm Piers Morgan. I can tell you I'm not. We don't sound the same at all. But Mr. Morgan has popped up in the Super Soaraway Sun with a column where he causes more problems for the Sussexes, as he writes, "Good for King Charles. That was my first reaction when I heard that he'd given a big regal middle finger to his treacherous youngest son, Harry. Let's be honest. If Charles had really wanted to see him, he'd have made the time. That's the whole point of being a king. You get to do what the hell you like. But it's clear from his bombshell and emphatic scheduling issue that Charles would rather impale himself on a rusty sword than meet up with someone who has wrought such vengeful misery on the royal family for so many years now. If you want to know why he refused to see Harry, look no further than the pathetically self-serving statement rushed out from the office of the Duke of Sussex, which concluded, "The Duke, of course, is understanding of his father's diary of commitments and various other priorities, and hopes to see him soon." Yep, that's right, Harry. Your dad has more important things to do, like hosting a Buckingham Palace garden party tomorrow with thousands of complete strangers. He would literally rather be exchanging small talk and munching sandwiches with people he's never met than endure a second in your malevolent company. And who can blame him? At least he'll be spending time with people who are happy and grateful to see him, not like Harry, who's now become a permanently whining, snarling, fuming, spoiled little brat who relishes publicly attacking his father's wife, his brother, and his brother's wife. But nobody should underestimate just what a big, significant moment this is. Ever since Harry and his wife, this one's wife, ditched Britain and royal duty for life in California, and then spent every second of their supposed freedom viciously trashing their family on TV and in books and interviews, Charles has maintained a dignified silence, refusing to take the bait. But now, knowing the eyes of the world are on him as he edges slowly back into public life after being diagnosed with cancer, he's finally made his feelings about his two-faced son crystal clear. Harry's officially persona non royal grata, from the monarch down, and it's no less than he deserves for his despicable behaviour. Charles is so disgusted, he won't even give him the time of day. And if that was one of my sons, I'd feel exactly the same way. Harsh words indeed from Piers Morgan, but they're observations that many people will agree with. And being given the old regal middle finger, it's problematic for the Sussexes because the thorn in the side of this one's wife, Piers Morgan, gets another opportunity to take potshots at the two of them. But then it's amplified through a national newspaper to demonstrate the poor nature of Harry's behaviour, but also that fundamental problem for this one's wife, that her need to maintain the connection with the royal family is increasingly under threat, and commentary from the likes of Piers Morgan and others revolving around the snub by the king weakens the position of this one's wife and threatens that need for control. It threatens to remove a considerable residual benefit. It threatens to dampen down aspects of fuel provision, and all of this is entirely problematic for a narcissist such as this one's wife. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.